Hey all, today I'm going to teach you how to make money with property flipping, or a longer term buy and hold strategy. I'm going to give you a real life example and set out the step-by-step costs and how to calculate the profit. If you stay until the end of the video, I'll show you how to implement a key strategy, house hacking, to reduce tax payments on property investing. So let's get into the video. Firstly, the property. To flip a property, you need to find one that's in need of refurbishment. These will often sell for a discount compared to its modern counterpart. As homeowners want something perfect, a property in need of refurbishment will often sell for significantly less than a new one. This discount is usually even bigger than the cost of repair. This is what I call buying the gap. Check out some of my other videos to find out how you can find a property deal and buy the gap. The property in this example was bought for $185,000. There's a number of comparable properties that are the same size, same square foot, but a better condition on the same street that are selling for around £230,000 to £240,000. There's about a £50,000 potential, and the property only needs around £10,000 to £15,000 worth of repairs. I'm using more of a buy and hold strategy for this property, as I'll be using it as my personal home. But a flipping strategy will work just as well in this instance. However, obviously it's important to consider the square foot or square meterage and number of bedrooms in the property that you're looking at compared to the comparable properties on the market or the ones that have recently sold, as obviously properties that are larger in square foot or have more bedrooms will sell for more. In this instance, the property that I'm buying is the exact same size or square foot as the other comparables. A property that's £185,000 using the buy and hold strategy requires a 10% deposit for a residential mortgage. That 10% deposit is £18,500, so I'll put that up on the screen here. The monthly mortgage payments on this are around about £650 a month. If the property flipping strategy is being followed, and this is your second property but not your main home, you'll need to use bridging finance. Bridging finance often has a higher interest rate, and you also need about a 25% deposit. The interest charge on this will be about £700 a month, but with bridging finance, you don't pay the interest monthly, it's only paid at the end of the project when you repay the loan. There's also a separate form of tax, which is stamp duty, that will have to be payable because it's your second property purchase. Secondly, we have the legal fees. Conveyancers or solicitors are required throughout the buying process to get all the documents ready to be signed and also file the correct documents with Land Registry. I recommend shopping around when looking for solicitors or conveyancers to find the best quote for you. Often a local firm is best because the online agents can often have too much work on their plate at one time because they quote a very low price. So legal fees are usually around £1,000 to £1,500. Next up is insurance. Insurance is required by law, and you have to have the insurance in place before you actually make the property purchase. Insurance in the UK is fairly cheap, and it's around about £150 per year, which is about £10 to £12 per month, let's say. Also, in the UK, we have to pay council tax on all properties. Commercial properties are a bit different, but you have to pay business rates. This is just another form of tax, really. Council tax is around £1,000 to £1,500 per year, so let's call it £100 to £120 per month. Next up is the mortgage fees or loan fees. I always recommend shopping around for the best loan because financing costs are quite high and eat into that profit. There's a number of different mortgage fees such as setup fees, early repayment charges, product fees, and valuation fees. I've explained these in previous videos, but effectively you want to try and find a mortgage that has no early repayment charge. This means that if you want to pay off the mortgage before the 2, 5 or 10 year teaser period has expired, you don't have to pay any fees. Also, it's worth bearing in mind that bridging loans often have much higher fees. In this instance, I had 0 early repayment charges, 0 valuation fees, 0 product fees and a £20 setup fee, so my total costs on the mortgage fees were £20. If you've enjoyed the video so far, leave a comment below about which topic you'd like me to go in depth in more, or just ask any questions that you need answered. Next up is refurb costs, so let's start with the kitchen. My suggested suppliers for a kitchen are DIY kitchens and Howdens. It should cost around £3,000 for cabinets and countertops, probably about £2,000 for the cabinets and £1,000 to £1,500 for a nice quartz worktop. Quartz is often a lot better than laminate because laminate can look like a cheap material. You could also go for hardwood, and laminate and hardwood are much cheaper than quartz. Laminate and hardwood are around £50 to £150 per square metre, whereas quartz is often 200 to 250, even 300 or 400 per square metre. It's also worth setting aside around £1,000 for the appliances and £800 for the labour. I try and focus on modern, sleek, handleless cabinets. Next up is the bathroom. I suggest Appliances Direct and Victorian Plumbing. These companies have got a wide range of products and fairly good prices. It should cost around £500 to £1,000 for the units, being the sink, the bath and the shower and the toilet. And around £500 for labour. You might need some replumbing, to move the bath around or to swap the toilet and the sink, for example. Next up is tiling. I would advise tiling from floor to ceiling in the bathroom, as this gives a much more high quality impression. I would also focus on using those high quality tiles, and it will probably cost around £1,000 to £1,500 to tile the full bathroom, including the labour costs. Next up is flooring. You've got a bunch of different flooring options. You could go for laminate, luxury vinyl plank, hardwood flooring or carpet. I always recommend carpet in the bedroom because everyone loves that soft feeling on their feet as they get out of bed. But I personally recommend luxury vinyl plank for downstairs, for the entire downstairs, for the kitchen, the living rooms, the dining room and any of the other sitting rooms. I recommend this because luxury vinyl plank is fairly cheap, water resistant, doesn't scratch too easy, but has a higher quality feel than laminate. Carpet's often around £10 to £15 per metre squared, and you can often find someone that will actually fit it for free. A lot of the main carpet companies such as Carpetright or a lot of your local carpet retailers will provide the free fitting. Luxury vinyl plank goes for around £20 to £25 per square metre. You can sometimes find it on sale for around £15 per square metre. This is fairly easy to fit yourself, but you could always use a flooring specialist to fit for you. They would probably charge between £5 and £20 per square metre to fit it. Next up is painting. This is fairly easy to do yourself, but could be quite time consuming. Therefore, you might want to use a painter or a decorator. I'd always recommend a good quality primer, such as Zinza, and a good quality trade paint. This will probably set you back £300 to £600 depending on the size of the property. I'd also recommend sanding and preparing the walls first, or using a sugar spray to remove any of that grease or dirt or grime that's left on the existing walls. Next up is the front door. A lot of older properties have a very old looking front door, like the one in this example. This is fairly easy and cheap to replace. A UPVC door costs about £300 and a solid hardwood door is often even cheaper. This is fairly easy to fit yourself, but you might need 1 or 2 people to help you, as getting the door lined up properly on the hinges is often very difficult. Next up is the windows. A lot of older properties still have single pane windows. This is pretty easy and cheap to replace with dual pane windows and adds quite a lot to the property value. It does depend whether these properties are standard size or not. Standard size windows are really easy to get from B&Q for about £150 a window. If they're not standard size, they have to be specially made. This can cost £200 to £250, maybe £300 a window. For regular size windows, obviously if you're going for a full wall, floor to ceiling size window, it's going to be quite a bit more expensive. You're also looking at probably around £150, maybe £100 per window to fit. Next up is any rectification or building or plumbing or electrical works that a property might need. The property in my instance needed about £1,000 worth of additional works. Therefore, all in, we're about £12,000 on the refurbishment costs. I'll add that to our running total over here. Next up are the fees that we're going to incur on the sale. Firstly, we've got estate agent fees. In the UK, this is around 1 to 3% of the property value. So let's chuck in £3,500 for estate agent fees. Next up, if you're using more of a longer term buy and hold strategy, it's worth factoring in principal paydown. Even though you're paying £650 a month for the mortgage repayments, around £350 of this is interest payments and around £250 to £300 of this is capital paydown. Therefore, each year, there's about a £3,000 capital paydown, which means the amount that you've paid down of the mortgage, and therefore when you sell the property, there's actually less of the mortgage that you have to repay. But obviously if you're using a bridging loan, there's no principal paydown as it's entirely interest cost that gets paid at the end. It's also worth factoring in additional legal fees on the sale because you have to pay legal fees on the purchase and the sale. These are a bit cheaper on the sale, around about £600 to £700. Therefore, if you're using a longer term buy to hold strategy, the total costs are around about £208,000. If you're using a flipping strategy with bridging finance, obviously there's no capital pay down, the setup fees are a bit more expensive, as is the interest, so you're probably at around £214,000 of total costs. Let's take the lowest comparable sale from earlier of only £230,000. If you do the property up to a high standard, you could probably get more than that because it's a great looking property. Taking off our costs of £208,000, that's about a £22,000 profit. We've got £41,000 of actual cash invested from our deposit and all the fees and the refurb costs we've paid, which is about a 50% return on investment. I'll make some more videos in the future that show you how to calculate return on investment and profit and all of these fees. Now, you must all be screaming at me like, hang on Tom, how is that possible? A 50% return, are you mad? Well, with property, you get the benefit of being able to use leverage. Because you're using the bank's money instead of using entirely your money, you're actually using about a 10 times leverage because obviously you've only put in a 10% deposit. If you're not using any of the bank's money and doing this solely with your own cash, you're going to make about a 10 times less amount of profit. So about a 5% return, which is still fairly good because the interest rates at the moment in a savings account is around 1 to 3%. Now, it's also worth factoring in the tax implications. If you're doing a property flipping strategy with a bridging loan, you're going to incur short-term trading profits tax, which is 20, 40 or 45% depending on your tax bracket. Or if you're operating through a company, 20% corporation tax rate, but then you're also going to get taxed personally on any dividends you draw out. However, if you're using more of a longer term buy to hold strategy and you're using this property as your main and only home, you might be eligible for PPR relief, which is private property residence relief. This incurs tax at 0%, but it's always worth speaking to a chartered accountant. If you want to learn more about investing in property, then check out some of my other videos, or subscribe to the channel and ding the notification button so that you're alerted when I upload a new video. Cheers!